Pick that up in Indo. Pure voodoo. Knocks out all the loggers and cameras. Plus, it does this.
Westworld is back, and along with it, my terrible intros. In this video, we'll be taking a deep dive into episode 1 of season 3, and if you're new to the channel, in these breakdowns we go over possible theories, explanations, and hidden details littered throughout the episode. So grab an expensive glass of booze, because here we go. Over this futuristic map showing the coordinates to Baha'i China, I want to take a moment to talk about the title of the episode, Jet Domine, which is from a Latin chant that translates to "Spare Lord, spare your people, be not angry with us forever." It's pretty foreboding, since the season will see Dolores attempting to overthrow humanity. Now this map here, which we'll see used multiple times throughout the episode, pinpoints locations as well as divergences and anomalies, making me think this is somehow linked to Rehoboam. Heads up, I'm going to screw up saying that name a million times. It's a futuristic device that was able to strategize a way to defeat climate change, but we'll get more into what this thing is a bit later on. We're off the coast of China with this guy, Jerry, who owns an insane amount of stocks in Delos, the company that owns Westworld. He's just receiving news about the massacre which transpired at the end of season 2, meaning stocks have plummeted and he's lost a shit ton of money. Notice here an ad for Insight. Jerry here used to work for them, the same company that created Rehoboam and also the one Liam Dempsey works for. Just before bed, he takes a single dose of Mellow Sunset, which is a limbic mood stabilizer. We'll see other characters in the show like Caleb's mother and this partygoer use it, which leads me to believe it may play a bigger role throughout the season. If you want to know more about it, the Insight Inc. website has more information, and I'll leave a link to that in the description. Jerry is greeted by Dolores, who we last saw in Charlotte's body, leaving Westworld at the end of season 2. Now, not a lot of time has passed since that event, so it's likely Dolores, in Charlotte's body, remade a copy of herself and transferred her consciousness back into her original body. This was likely done using Arnold's host creation machine in his home. It would also explain how she was able to create this copy of Martin, who we'll get into in a bit. Dolores remembers Jerry from his visit to Westworld where he sexually abused her, so this is personal. She's stolen his money to fund what she calls an investment into the origin of a new species, meaning the host taking over. But what she really wants are his confidential files he has on Insight. Since Insight owns Rehoboam, an AI with immense power, she is likely looking to take control of it in her effort to take over the world. With the files acquired, Jerry does a big swing and a miss, dying in the pool with his wife asking Dolores who she is.
The person who set you free.
Just like Dolores was freed from the violence of Westworld, so too was Jerry's wife from his abuse. Dolores' interaction with Jerry here hints that she is using her knowledge of past part guests to manipulate, control, and perhaps even replace people in prominent positions in the real world. Moving to Los Angeles, we get our first look at Caleb Nichols. He's a down-and-out construction worker who rigs fiber optic cable with a robot for a living. The first episode really sets him up as this disillusioned young man with a dying mother in the hospital, unable to pay the bills, and a trauma involving an ex-army buddy, all melding together to make this character. He even questions how technology was supposed to make the world better, but sometimes he's not so sure. This worldview will definitely come into play when he teams up with Dolores, who wants to tear it all down. We also learn that he is in a very small minority of people who don't have an implant. Now, we're not exactly sure what this entails, but it's likely these implants are connected with Rehoboam. Him not having an implant will help him later on. We also get this voiceover of Caleb's ex-army mate Francis, played by Kid Cudi. At the end of the episode, we'll find out he's actually dead, and this is all part of a futuristic treatment program meant for Caleb to get over his trauma. Caleb's unwillingness to talk with Francis, shown through his continual refusal to pick up his calls, shows his inability to move on with his life and confront his trauma. In fact, at the end of the episode, he unsubscribes to the treatment, which his therapist says if he does, he won't get his benefits, so look for him being even more strapped for cash in the episodes ahead. In the hospital, we see Caleb's mother, who doesn't even recognize her own son, hinting that she may have Alzheimer's. If he can't pay her bills, she'll be forced to move to a shittier state-run facility. This is when he uses an app called Rico, which is like Uber for committing crimes, hooking up criminals of various kinds to partake in heists, shakedowns, and thefts. Rico is short form for racketeer-influenced and corrupt organizations. His first mission mission is to pick up a canister of acetylene, which he uses to blow up an ATM machine alongside Ash and Giggles. Giggles here has a cool shirt which lights up depending on how he's feeling. When he's on drugs, it's amused. When he gets punched in the face, angry. In San Francisco, Charlotte heads a Delos board meeting 3 months after the massacre at Westworld. Already, the show is playing around with time, since the first scene of this episode was shortly after the massacre, and boom, now we're 3 months later. I'm going out on a limb here and saying this is not Dolores in Charlotte's body, but one of the 5 pearls which contains individual host data that she took off the island. It seems as though Charlotte will be managing the Delos side of things while Dolores will be handling Insight. How these two come together in Dolores' master plan, we'll just have to find out as the show comes along. Charlotte here is the interim CEO and wants to take the company private, which the other board members think is suicide. She can only pass something with the approval of the machine proxy, an algorithm that makes decisions on behalf of someone who we don't know. It's not mentioned who this person is, but my guess is it might be William, aka the Man in Black. It's also here that we learn a worldwide manhunt is underway to find Bernard, who was rebuilt by Dolores at the end of season 2. Bernard is in the Philippines, we can tell by the Filipino signs in the background. He's working at a meat production plant under the name Armand Delgado, which is an anagram for Damaged Arnold, and spends most of his time at night running diagnostics on himself. Paranoid Dolores may be interfering with his coding. But what really is interesting about Bernard is his ability to switch between 2 seemingly different operating systems. We'll see him later take on 2 of his coworkers and brutally attack them, then switch back into his more peaceful form. It's also here he tells them that without someone to help him, he can't trust himself. This is why at the end of the episode he wants to travel back to Westworld. There is someone there that can help him make sense of all of this. Perhaps it's Ford or some iteration of him. His ability to switch into these 2 forms leads me to believe Dolores might be able to manipulate his violent form later on in the season. After all, she was the one who brought him back. Also curious is when he asks himself a question, he says, "Would you ever lie to me, Bernard?" Almost as if someone else is controlling him. And here's a kick-ass dress change, god damn. Dolores here is on her way to see Liam Dempsey at Insight, who's being awarded Technologist of the Year for helping curb climate change. He refers to Dolores as Laura, and she also tells one of Liam's friends she's from a small town out west, which is a fun tongue-in-cheek nod to Westworld. After a brief chat with Liam's friends, one of whom questions whether or not we're living in a simulation within a simulation, a hint that this entire season might actually be a simulation, Liam is pulled aside by Martin Connells, his head of security, and informed that he must make a very important meeting. Dolores is of course listening in on this. She needs to get close to Liam for reasons that will be made clear in a moment. At a therapy session, Caleb questions his treatment, but what I find more curious here are his flashbacks featuring Francis. One in which they're clearly in uniform, the other where he's not, but we can make out what appears to be a Russian sign over here. Whether this was a special operation or something more criminal isn't yet known, but I doubt this will be the last time we visit the whole Caleb-Francis backstory. Caleb once again refuses a call from the fake Francis program and resorts to doing another Rico mission. For the second time, Caleb mentions he doesn't do personals, i.e. missions that involve harming others. It's basically the writers trying to show us that yeah, Caleb does some shady shit, but he never hurt anyone. Plus it will create some great tension when he later joins up with Dolores, who basically beats the shit out of everyone. Speaking of Dolores, she's getting off Liam's giant yacht near the coast of California, and we get our first glimpse of Rehoboam. The few clues we get about it happen in this scene. Liam basically talks about how his dad thought that if everyone had a purpose in life, their own path, the world would be a better place, so Rehoboam charts that course for you, likely by taking all your data, your likes, desires, habits, everything about you to predict your actions and know what is best for you. Of course, we'll likely see how this can be manipulated and used for nefarious purposes. Rehoboam is a reference to the grandson of King David who faced a rebellion resulting in a fractured Israel. We'll likely be seeing a fractured world if Dolores has her way. After Liam is whisked away for his super top secret meeting, Dolores chases after him to eavesdrop, learning that this Asian woman over here represents a yet unknown man who has interest in Rehoboam, believing that someone may have gained access to it. Liam says it's not possible and that her boss should be more interested in what's going on over at Delos, meaning that there is some sort of link between her boss, Insight, and Delos. Now we don't know who this person is. It could potentially be Serac, who we'll get to in a bit. Caleb gets a call from the straight and narrow job he applied for, only to find out he's rejected. Not only that, the person who rejected him was an AI. This is all laying the foundation for his character this season. His contempt for technology and inability to fit into society will lead him to do things things others would not. At Liam's multi-million-dollar condo, Liam vents his frustration about Rehoboam, wishing he could just turn it off. The big revelation here is that he's never had control of it and that his father's partner locked him out of the system right after his father's death years ago. More frightening, he has no idea what it's planned. The only person who does is his father's partner. But before Dolores can find out who this is, she's tased by Martin, who has found out Dolores isn't who she says she is. Perhaps she's looking to steal money or into Liam for industrial espionage. They don't know she's actually a host. Martin and Liam decide to get rid of her by drugging and dumping her body. Meanwhile, Caleb takes on a new Rico mission, delivering tranquilizers to a man working for Martin. This is where Caleb and Dolores' storylines begin to collide. He's shooed away, and Dolores is given lethal amounts of tranquilizer, which of course don't work on her, when a mysterious vehicle pulls up, providing enough of a distraction for her to take out the entire security force. Martin drives off, but is chased by Dolores and ultimately shot and killed by a replica of him. My guess is that this new Martin, who will likely act as a mole at Insight now, is actually Teddy, her lover from Westworld. And this is also where Martin reveals the partner is Serac. We know this character is played by Vincent Cassel and is likely extremely wealthy. From the trailers we know he somehow teams up with Maeve and tries to get her to stop Dolores. Caleb unsubscribes from his treatment, saying that he'll need to find something or someone real in order to get on with his life. This is right before he'll meet a shot Dolores. The irony here is that she isn't real at all. Bernard here, now with a shaved beard, asks some local boaters to take him to Westworld, meaning that Westworld might just be on an island, or even crazier, underwater, somewhere in the South China Sea off the coast of the Philippines. And finally, I hope you stayed around for the post-credit scene, which reveals Maeve in a World War II themed park set in Nazi-controlled Italy. My best guess here is that Maeve has been reprogrammed by Delos and moved to this new park and has been here for quite some time. However, when she wakes up, she's snapping into her old memory. That's why when she sees the prisoner, she has no recollection of who he is, but the bruises on her knuckles and his scared reaction hint that she was the one who beat the crap out of him. She'll be diverging from her path here, looking for a way out. That's it for this episode. I can't wait to see how this season shapes up, and I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff I didn't cover, so leave your thoughts and theories in the comments below. I'll be covering every episode this season, so be sure to like and subscribe with the bell on. You can also follow me on Twitter at ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember, Daddy loves you very much.